In part one of our series examining economic equity and inclusion in Hamilton County, we learned there is a plan in place to advance the merits of economic equity and inclusion in the construction supply chain. We learned that a critical component of the port's long-standing economic inclusion strategy is to provide matchmaking opportunities for majority-owned firms with minority-owned, women-owned, and small business enterprises. And we learned that in order to significantly move the needle of economic equity and inclusion, leaders must be intentional about their efforts. In part two of this series, we'll take a look at whether this intentionality is turning into reality. Joe Jackson, CEO and owner of Battle Axe Construction, acknowledges progress has been made in sharing the profits, but also believes we can be better.
Since I've been in business for 17 years, and I feel like here within the last 3 to 5 years, the city has made more progress than previous. I feel like we're on the right path. I just feel like more needs to be done. We need more involvement from others to surpass the barriers that's currently in place.
So it's clear inroads have been paved for economic equity and inclusion success. But if more is still needed, how do we create trail-breaking results?
And one of the things that's really key for us is there's a term called Bhag. And really what Bhag is a bold, hairy, audacious goal. So it's a bold goal that really changes the trajectory of what you're working on. And really, if you look at it, why couldn't it be that our supply base reflects our communities?
Let's get back to intentionality. One general contractor says it is very intentional when bidding out projects. Nick and Susie Manning own Manning Contracting, a woman-owned and small business enterprise. The Mannings say if we want to drive an equitable and inclusive share of the wealth in the construction supply chain, the effort cannot just be mailed in.
We call it intentionality, call it thinking outside the box. Also, it's just like, some of it's just effort. If you just put out a blast email and throw your hands up and say, it's our best effort, we just couldn't get anybody to respond. Like, you could do that, I guess. I mean, that was the reality, but for us, it was like, okay, now how do we think more critically here to get folks involved?
Until we get to the point that this isn't a conversation that is highlighted, but just part of the normal course of business, I think having positions like the port has, I think is important, instead of just saying like, well, everyone has a little part in it, but how do you actually make it so that it's at the forefront of the work being done?
Economic equity and inclusion is not a passing popular trend. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have, and smart business leaders recognize our economic growth is at stake. Some say it's mission critical.
Normally when we talk about E&I, we talk about it from a social perspective, which is important. But there's a business opportunity that's being missed. Ohio is number 7 in the list of top 10 states as far as GDP. Unfortunately, Ohio has the lowest growth rate in the top 10. And if you look at the power of E&I, it has the ability to go in and lift our GDP by 5% a year over the next 5 years.
Another way to spread the economic wealth, industry leaders say, is to share what hasn't worked, and perhaps more importantly, what has.
If multiple organizations within the city of Cincinnati adapt the port's strategy, there would be spontaneous change. There would be a lot of dollars flowing into minority businesses, women-owned businesses. There'd be ample opportunities for more businesses.
The calling cards of economic equity and inclusion are evident all around the region, with many more hands still to be dealt. Not buying in? Hamilton County leadership wants business leaders to know it's watching.
What I'm looking for is that when I look at the statistics and the data, I can see some evidence that things have changed. That we can actually see a change and that people don't see it as something that's threatening to them.